This is episode 2 of the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast with fitness leader Bryan O'Rourke.
For some business models and professionals, it's going to be disruptive in a painful way because, the ability to adapt to change or figure out what you need to absolutely focus on and what you need to absolutely let go of, people are going to have to figure that out. But I think for the most part, the creation of all these new possibilities that technology is going to give us is going to make creative people, out there be able to touch a heck of a lot more people and impact their health in many more positive ways than they were able to do before.
Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. I am your host, Josh Trent, and this is your number one trusted resource for the accelerating world of fitness technology. Each week, we bring you an expert interview with global influencers at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You'll gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse of what matters most for your fitness business in the age of exponential technologies. This podcast is brought to you by the Fitness Industry Technology Council, who is mobilizing resources to drive the fitness industry forward and representing leading companies and organizations to success through collaboration. This show is supported by Videri Ventures, a boutique investment and advisory firm helping early mature and late-stage enterprises succeed in a new era. For episode 2, we are picking up right where we left off in episode 1 with Bryan on how the role of personal trainers is changing in both digital solutions and in hybrid, and how the ubiquity of data is impacting behavior change science and the industry, what these new innovations mean to meeting the needs of an active aging and boomer segment, and the impact of new tech for increasing global life expectancy and reducing poverty. Bryan's going to talk to us about linear thinking versus exponential thinking, sick care versus primary prevention, and how technology is expanding human connection in AI, urbanization, and the human condition. Be sure to stick around to the end of the show where we discuss Bryan's trip to China Fit and the one thing that club operators, gym managers, and fitness professionals must do for 2017. If you haven't listened to the first episode, hit stop right now and go back, listen to the first powerful episode of the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. And if you have, let's get to part 2 of a new era of exponential technology with the president of FITSE, Bryan O'Rourke. And I have an emotional investment in this. As you know, I've been a trainer for 10 years, 10,000 hours shoulder to shoulder with clients in the gym. And what really bothered me, and I think if there's trainers listening, is that an hour service for an hour of payment is just not sustainable for someone who's passionate. And we see these technologies being something that can really help the trainers scale their service outside of the club. Who do you think is doing a great job of this right now? Who in the industry is really paying attention to scaling the trainer services? And Bryan, what technology are they using?
Well, so I don't want to point into too many brands because sometimes when I do that specifically, I'll leave someone off and I feel badly about it. So, there are a lot of them. I mean, trying to figure it out. I think that there are a number of pure digital solutions that are out there that provide integrated nutritional coaching, fitness coaching and psychology via mobile video and via tracking information, et cetera. There are a number of models out there doing that. There are bricks and mortar health club facilities who are developing certain applications to do that. There are trainer tools that are doing that, several of them, creating this omnipresence potential to do some of the things we described. And I think you're going to see in the next 24 months more and more adoption of AI, machine learning in that type of construct. That what it does is what you described. It amplifies the greatest app in the world, which is the person. It really enables their skill set to impact a heck of a lot more people in more effective ways. The underlying behavior modification disciplines that you know well and that great coaches deploy are only amplified with the utilization of technology because, technology can collect information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It can also personalize the responses and other stimulus that can help people make those changes that just take, a Josh Trent and his awesomeness and amplifies it so that you can have a greater impact. So, this is an area that a lot of health clubs are trying to get their head around and are actively experimenting on and with. Mm-hmm. And I think you're going to see a tremendous amount of innovation in this in the next several years.
You contributed to Essentials of Motivation and Behavior Change for Fitness, Health, and Sport Professionals, Europe Active last year, and you were quoted in your section, the application of technology tools in fitness and health, specifically as it pertains to behavior change, is in its infancy, and the natural progression of innovation and adoption, as other industries have demonstrated, will likely result in solutions which show better outcomes. What do you think, Bryan, is going to move the needle for behavior change? I know we're going to have on Dr. Michael Mantell later on in our podcast series to talk deeply about this, but on a high level, why do you feel that technology and behavior change are this powerful marriage?
I think they are because of what they can represent. I mean, obviously, with the ubiquity of data and constant learning as to what's actually happening with people, you can see what's actually going on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that gives you a level of transparency that, you just couldn't have before unless you hired an individual to coach you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
That'd be quite expensive.
They would be very expensive. So it's about scale, obviously. That's one thing. I also think that there's going to be an increasing amount of wind at the back of wellness and outcomes. Right now, because of the economic dynamics I mentioned before, eventually, and this is going to be global in its nature. When I was in the UK with their health system, this is a big area that they're trying to increasingly emphasize in the United States as well, where, economically, we just cannot afford to continue to finance a sick care system that is really becoming a great burden to our society economically. It's a huge overhang on our economic output, and putting aside quality of life issues, which are, you can't even measure that with a dollar sign or a euro sign. So I think those economic drivers as well are going to force public policy to embrace these kind of fundamental primary prevention initiatives, which fundamentally have to do with behavior modification. Additionally, people are living older, and this wave of boomers. The notion of people adopting active lifestyle, active aging, as my friend Colin Milner would tell you, is an explosive area of growth for the marketplace. And at the same time, we've seen significant cultural shifts in thinking when you realize today in the United States how few young people are actually smoking cigarettes compared to what it was like a quarter century ago. So inherently in our culture, I think people are becoming much more aware of the need for this. So I think a combination of factors along with the technology innovations are going to enable this adoption because it's a necessity, as well as having all the benefits of the results of actually doing these things.
You recently posted an article on social. It's called, "Okay, Haters, It's Time to Admit It. The World is Becoming a Better Place." And in the article, there's many things that are in alignment with, obviously, our environment is changing for the positive. Yet we see so many messages, Bryan, in the media about how the world is changing and things are getting worse. But what's the real data showing? I mean, our quality of life is going up. Life expectancy is going through the roof. Poverty is improving. All these changes. How is technology helping these levels rise?
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, just the internet being explored and exposed, I should say, to more and more of the poor, and the global poor are obtaining the benefit of it. Today, the reason that asking better and better questions is more and more relevant is that you can find out a lot of information if you just connect it to the internet. So, this certainly creates global markets. It creates a greater marketplace for people to help themselves up. It's kind of a leveling of the playing field. Peter Diamandis, writes about it in his book Abundance. He talks about the exponential expansion of technology and how our brains are really designed to think in a linear manner for good reason. We human beings evolved in a relatively slow fashion. There wasn't a lot of change going on, and you were very much programmed to be in a survivalist sort of mentality. So when change and the benefits of change start becoming very, very apparent, it is very hard for humans to naturally see that upside right away because it's just not in our DNA. But putting that aside, if you are rational and you do look at the data, in fact, things are getting significantly better. Now, are there problems? Sure there are. I mean, technology has caused a lot of problems. But that technology we're inventing today will solve those problems and just create other problems we have thought of for the future. But in the end, the ability to create infinite numbers of choices for people to make better decisions for their health, their education, their food, their future, in the end, that's going to be good for everybody.
And it's the data showing it. It's not just positive mindset. Let's shift, Bryan. We're talking about our fitness technology trends report that's coming out in 2017. Share with the audience a little bit about this technology report. Who are going to be some of the experts that are putting their 2 cents and their knowledge into the report? Who is this report for?
This report is for the global industry, and it talks about the key trends with some leaders everywhere from sensors to Internet of Things to mobile apps to coaching, digital coaching, all the key trends that we are seeing people trying to figure out right now. We try to give folks kind of a roadmap and things to be looking out for and the why behind them. The Fitness Industry Technology Council is, our mission is to help people improve user experience through adoption of new tools and technologies, and to collaborate and to foster collaboration around the industry space to make it easier for folks to take that kind of seismic leap of faith into the future. So we have some great people that are going to be contributing, sort of a who's who from around the world, and we'll be releasing that just before the first of the year. And like we do with all of our main reports, we're giving this away free so that people can share it and talk about it and learn from it. We're trying to heighten the quality of the conversation to help people ask better and better questions in order to facilitate our industry reaching its promise in the next decade.
And you can download that report in our show notes page. I'll link that. You can just touch your phone, touch the screen. The link will be in purple. Bryan, let's shift to our last segment. When we look at the globalization of technology, what is this globalization piece? I mean, we talked about new markets, new innovations, but sustainability and public policy, how does this relate to the technology influence on globalism?
Yeah, well, in sustainability, of course, things like our food system, things like how we're spending so much money on sick care versus primary prevention that would avoid the need to spend so much money on chronic illness at end of life, and reduce that drain on the global economy tremendously so that those resources can be directed toward other beneficial things like education, like creating a more sustainable and healthy food system, those kind of things. So we're talking about shifting resources, and I think there's no better example of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure than the fitness, health and fitness industry.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I think that's important. And then also organizations like IHRSA, organizations like Fitness Australia, American Council on Exercise, Europe Active, UK Active, all the different groups in South America, Asia, Africa, where the collaboration is occurring from these leadership groups and more, and many others, driving the conversation around public policy as far as what kind of tax incentives, what kind of structural shifts do we need to make in these institutions, and how we reimburse, and what we are shifting our policy goals around to help facilitate this fundamental shift in how we're allocating resources. And fitness and health and fitness being a big part of that equation. And Steve Case talked about in the third wave that really education, healthcare, and the food system are the three big areas in the next decade. And we're going to see massive innovation because we need to. And we need to cooperate as leaders in the fitness industry to help our leaders in government see the need for these kind of paradigm shifts in order for us to make the planet a healthier place.
And how does urbanization plug in? I mean, in your report from London, you talked about urbanization cities that are driving global growth and represent the majority of health club operations. For people that might not know, Bryan, what is urbanization? How does that relate to this global piece?
Yeah, so most of the population growth now in the world is in cities. And this creates its own set of unique challenges. There's good to it, and there's some bad to it. Obviously, pollution, from a health club perspective, the cost of locations, the real estate cost, densities of people. I was in London, I think that I was told there were as many as 400 fitness facilities within a 1 mile radius from where we were in the city.
Wow.
Tremendous competition. but also a huge opportunity. So, for example, the notion of buying cars in major cities is becoming quite passé for people because there are so many alternative means of transportation that don't require a waste of resources around automobiles. In fact, 95% of the time that a car is around, it's sitting parked. So you think about underutilization, right? So when it comes to the health club industry, fitness, et cetera, that's where these technology tools can really help capacity, because there is a lot more capacity available than people are utilizing. And there'll be different ways for folks to embrace or procure the services or products around fitness because of proximity in these urban environments. So I think you'll see a tremendous number of new kinds of business models. Another interesting thing around that in urbanization is how we're seeing an increasing utilization of multiple facilities, multiple business models for fitness and health by one consumer. So I may utilize the Withings app and platform and scale at home, and I might have a main kind of health club with more general equipment, cardiovascular equipment, and strength training. And I might, go to a yoga studio, and I might also participate in a high intensity training type of workout studio. So I may procure 4 or 5 different kind of tools, products, and services for my health and fitness, all because they're in a very easy walk for me because I'm in an urban situation. Mm-hmm. And because of the advent of all this technology. So what that helps do is just this huge expansion of demand because people are able to very conveniently procure a wider variety of services and products.
And really, there's no stopping the exponential growth of how the customer is going to get this seamless experience, Bryan, whether they're at their home on the phone, whether they're at the club, how they're being geofenced, the types of ads they're being served. It's incredible the amount of personalization, making technology more human. Talk about that, Bryan, this technology component, how it's going to be so much more in-depth on a personal level. We've linked in previous episodes that we'll post a lot of AI and how therapy is being done with PTSD, war veterans, how they're more comfortable talking to a DARPA psychologist who is actually an AI and a robot. But what do you see, Bryan? How is technology going to be involving the human experience, and how is technology going to meet us at an emotional level?
This is a very profound question for me. Oftentimes, I think some folks want to think it's human versus technology, and it's really not. I mean, technology comes from humanity. I mean, our biology is technology. What technology is just an extension of our own biology. And it's an enabler of the greatest app in the world, which is the human spirit. That you're able to FaceTime with your child when you're traveling is a profound thing. Some of the most human forms of interaction are fundamentally enabled through technology. In our future lives, our great-grandchildren will know us intimately because of our digital footprints. Where now, if you wanted to see what was happening in your great-great-grandparents' life, you might be lucky to read a newspaper article, if you're lucky, or see a faded photo. Think of the potential of generational understanding that will emerge as a result of being able to look back in time. They have companies now with virtual reality that are recording with sensors people holding their infants after birth so that they can relive the experiences. These are very profound ideas, and what their impact will mean to humanity, I think, is a deeper empathy and understanding of the human condition and a greater sense of understanding in general for each other. The ability to download our memories and have other people experience those memories. These key trends like virtual reality, which enables a flow state, which increases your ability to retain and learn by as much as 500%. So, I just think it's a fascinating time. Sure, there are going to be some risks and some unforeseen circumstances, but some of the outcomes are going to be just very surprising. I think the DARPA AI who is doing post-traumatic stress disorder cognitive therapies having a 47% higher rate of success than a human, because people don't want to necessarily be as open with a human because they're concerned about them being judged. That's a very interesting, unexpected consequence, I would say, for most people to hear that. So I think there will be many good things. I think there will be some things that we need to be cautioned about or have caution on. But I think that for the most part, these things, these tools and technology in general, is just going to enable so many great things to occur and be a key catalyst behind this new experience of fitness that we're seeing unfold before our eyes today.
Well, Bryan, thank you so much for your work. I found you in 2012 on Twitter, by the way, which I think, where are you at? 350,000 people on Twitter follow you. And I found you in 2012, and it's been such a joy to cultivate this relationship over the past 3.5, 4 years with you. And what I'm really excited about coming up this year in 2016 as we end the year and in 2017 is this connection between technology, not only how it impacts the industry, but how it helps the human condition. So thank you so much for your work, man. I know we've covered a lot about everything from technology to human experience, but is there anything you want to leave a gym or club operator or a trainer with as a take home for why technology is something they not only get to pay attention to, but they can really grab and use for their growth?
Well, thank you, Josh, by the way. And again, I appreciate all your help with our Fitness Industry Technology Council. I know people will be able to check out our website and learn more. Before I answer your question, I also want to let you know that on Twitter and other channels, I'm very accessible. So if you are a professional that's trying to understand things, you can come to FitC, and we have people here that will try to help you figure some things out. So we're here online and certainly in person at various events around the world, and are happy to help. But to answer your question, I think it's really important that people try to figure out what they want to do, what kind of business model they really want to execute, because being all things to all people today is going to be harder and harder. So I think you really have to have a solid business strategy. And that business strategy could apply to your career in fitness. It could apply to any number of things. But I think a concrete strategy that keeps in mind where you are today, what is happening in your marketplace, and these key trends, I think you need to have a pretty clear path so that you can tie what you're prioritizing every day to this future that's upon us. Because that'll be the big difference for a lot of people, being able to really seize the upside of disruption and take these changes as a huge opportunity versus being in an unfortunate situation where they really weren't prepared. So seek counsel, and that's what we're here for, is to help folks. It's why we write the papers we do. It's why we're doing this podcast. It's why we work with wonderful professionals like you, Josh, and others, is to try to heighten awareness and to prepare people, because we're about to go through a huge surge in growth, and we want everyone to benefit from that so we can benefit the world as an industry.
Bryan, thank you so much for your passion, your work. I know you're leaving for China Fit in a couple of days, so I'll let you go. Is there anything as a parting comment for your work with China, what you're doing with China, and let people know where they can learn more about not only our podcast, but FitC and all the offerings that FitC has for the industry? Yes,
well, I'm sure you'll fittechcouncil.org. Is our website. We're certainly on all the social networks. You can Google me, Bryan, Bryan O'Rourke, O'Rourke. I'm on every major social platform and very accessible, as well as FitC and our other board members who all are very active. You can find those board members at fittechcouncil.org. In China, China Fit, a great event. IHRSA puts it on with China Fit. We're going to meet a lot of the leading health club operators in China, in the fitness industry. We have some wonderful people from IHRSA going, friends like Paul Brown, Lexi, Allison Flylee, a bunch of great people that I've known for years who are leaders in the space. They'll be presenting. It's a fantastic event. China's a fabulously wonderful place. It's only 0.4% of the Chinese population are members of health clubs today.
Wow.
If that reached 15%, there'd be over 150 million people as health club members in China. So China is a huge growth market, as well as most of Asia Pacific, and just wonderful people, always interesting. I'll be giving several talks and being on roundtables, and we'll be touching on the technology trends and also on business model evolution. The great thing China has going for it is what I call the leapfrog effect, in that they're going to be able to leapfrog some of the things that we now wrestle with from a legacy perspective, just like they're able to leapfrog banking, jumping straight into mobile banking. That's happening in India and Africa as well. So I think you're going to see a lot of innovation in China in the next 5 to 10 years. You're going to see a lot of growth. And it's always wonderful to go there. I always enjoy visiting my friends there.
Well, we look forward to some of the things that we can take action on, not only from China and the lessons you're learning there, but how that means we're going to direct our behaviors here. Bryan, we're going to see a lot of you on the podcast. We so look forward to the education and the inspiration, my man, from what you're doing on the road in fitness and in technology.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate you so much. And thanks, everyone, for taking part in the podcast and listening. Please share the word.
With 1 billion collective Global Health Club members online and offline in 2025, the one thing that Bryan suggests all club operators, managers, and fitness pros do in 2017 is get clear on the type of business model and delivery model you really want to execute on to successfully ride this wave of technology in the industry. Next is the human mind. Bryan talked about that we are running on old software, and to succeed in this new era, you can follow the advice of his mentor, Peter Diamandis, that we all need to adapt exponential thinking and rise above the reptilian brain and the old software. And lastly, the landscape of the personal trainer and the delivery models of training services are changing in both pure digital and hybrid. So successful trainers and club operators and owners need to explore the impact today for the future of fitness and how technology will facilitate that change. Thank you for spending some time with me on the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. I want to thank our sponsors, Videri Ventures and the Fitness Industry Technology Council. You can learn more about becoming a valued partner with FitC, as well as access all the links and resources from today's show by heading over to fittechcouncil.org/podcast. If you're listening on your phone, tap the show artwork and the live link will appear in purple. Support this podcast by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. If you've gotten value and been able to take inspired action from the guests and information on this show, head on over to fittechcouncil.org/review, and you can leave your voice to be heard live on the iTunes airwaves. Or just simply tap that show artwork and the review link will be in purple for you to leave right from your phone. Next week, we have another phenomenal show with an expert guest to inspire you at the crossroads of fitness and technology. So until I see you again next week, be well, have an amazing day, and go out there to connect online and offline with the people you care about most.